Welcome to Precipitating Factors, Reading the Room Before the Storm. I'm Dr. Delisa Fields. As behavior support staff, you know that behavior rarely happens in isolation. Something almost always occurs before a behavior escalates, something that increases the likelihood it will happen. If we can learn to read the room and recognize these conditions early, we can move away from constantly reacting to crises and shift toward preventing escalation altogether. Precipitating factors are the conditions or events that influence behavior. To make this practical, we focus on three specific concepts: setting events, antecedents, and triggers. Setting events. These are underlying conditions that make challenging behavior more likely, even if they don't cause it directly. Think of inadequate sleep, hunger, illness, grief, conflict at home, or changes in medication. Antecedents. This is what happens immediately before a behavior occurs. A teacher hands out a difficult assignment. A peer makes a comment. A transition begins. Identifying antecedents helps us spot recurring patterns. Triggers. These are experiences that produce a strong, immediate emotional response. Triggers are deeply individual. What bothers one student may pass right over another. Every day, our students navigate potential stressors across three main areas: environmental, excessive noise, packed hallways, substitute teachers, or sudden schedule changes; social, peer conflict, rejection, bullying, or perceived disrespect; academic, difficult assignments, public reading, testing, or fear of failure. Our job is not to make assumptions about what a student is feeling. We observe, we document, and we look for the patterns. One of our most powerful tools is the ABC model. A is for antecedent. What happened immediately before? B is for behavior. What did the student actually do? C is for consequence. What happened immediately after? Let's look at an example. Antecedent. The teacher directs the student to begin independent math work. Behavior. The student pushes the paper away, says, "I'm not doing this," and leaves their seat. Consequence. The student is removed from the room. If this happens repeatedly, the data tells us something critical. Leaving the room allows the student to escape difficult academic work. That insight is vastly more useful than just writing, "Student was defiant." Remember, in the ABC framework, consequence simply means what happened next, whether that's adult attention, peer laughter, or removal of work. What happens immediately after a behavior determines whether that behavior will happen again. When collecting ABC data, leave out emotional labels. Instead of writing, "The student became disrespectful," document what you can actually measure and observe. The student raised his voice, used profanity, pushed his chair backward, and walked out of the classroom. Objective data gives our team solid ground to stand on. Reactive support starts after a student is already dysregulated. Proactive support asks a better question: what can we change before escalation occurs? If crowded transitions trigger anxiety, can we shift the student's transition time? If academic frustration drives disruptions, can we break tasks into manageable steps? If peer conflict is a repeated antecedent, where do we need targeted supervision or restorative mediation? Proactive support doesn't mean removing every challenge from a student's life. They still need to build regulation, communication, and coping skills. Our goal is to reduce unnecessary triggers while actively teaching them better ways to respond. As behavior support staff, you notice things others miss. You see the student who gets restless right before lunch, the student who shuts down during unstructured time, or the student who becomes defensive when corrected in front of peers. Before asking, "How do we stop this behavior?" shift your perspective. What tends to happen before it? What happens afterward? What can we change, teach, or support before this becomes a crisis? Effective behavior support doesn't begin at the height of escalation. It begins when we learn to read the room before the storm. Thank you for your dedication to our students. Let's make today count.